First and foremost, the Raiders got the win. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. This was a good win that wasn't as close as the final score indicated. Both sides of the ball played well, but nothing that was really exceptional. In the end, this was a win that the Raiders needed. They beat Jay Cutler and a terrible offense. Not really one to be super proud of, but a win is a win, and we'll take it. I just have to say, welcome back offensive line. They played a lot like the offensive line of last year. They opened up holes in the running game, and more importantly, protected Derek Carr. Only one sack was allowed, and I personally blame that one on Carr. He was holding onto the ball too long, and so went around for the sack. That was what we expected from the offensive line. This offense can go really far if they play like this. The Raiders finally stuck to the running game. It wasn't dominant or controlling the game, but it kept the defense honest. Too many times in the past, the Raiders would abandon the running game after the first quarter. As expected, the ground game opened up as the game wore on, and Lynch scored his 2 touchdowns. This is one of the best fronts in the NFL, and the Raiders had success. Stick to the running game, and good things will happen. Jared Cook had himself a great game. He was open early and often, and especially on third down. He finished with 8 catches for 126 yards and was really a mismatch as expected. He played fantastic and is Derek Carr's go-to receiver on third down. With him taking advantage of the middle, imagine just how potent the Raiders' offense can be. As great as Cook was, the receivers were not. More specifically, they had drops. The plays that stood out were the back-to-back drops by Cooper and Crabtree. Both would have been big plays and would have eaten lots of time off the clock. It'd be one thing if they were bad balls, but they both hit him in the hands and between the numbers. The drops continue to be an issue. And now, we move on to the defense. The defense needs to create more pressure. Jay Cutler had plenty of time to pass, especially early in the game. The secondary is banged up and not playing well, and there's no pressure to help them out. Mack and Urban created pressure as the game wore on, but it's still so pathetic. The interior of the defensive line produces little to no pressure, and Mack needs help. On the plus side, the Raiders' run defense held its own. Again, the Dolphins' offense is just pathetic, and the Raiders should have had their way. Still, credit to the Raiders and the linebackers for getting it done. The Dolphins constantly ran it up the middle, and there was little to no gain. As the game wore on, it did open up though. That is what usually happens on a normal defense, but the Raiders' defense usually leaves it open from the beginning. Hopefully, the run defense plays like this all season long. The Raiders' secondary as a whole did well, specifically given the circumstances and the talent on the Dolphins' wide receiving core. But I'm going to point out the same problem. Julius Thomas, the Dolphins' tight end, was left alone multiple times. This has been a recurring problem all season long. Julius Thomas is 6'5", 262 pounds, and somehow finds himself wide open in the middle of the field. Obi Melifonwu didn't really play much, but the Raiders must do something to fix this issue. It's been a recurring problem that isn't even close to being resolved. The Raiders need to stop shooting themselves in the foot. The penalties were a huge problem. The refs seem to be calling flags on both sides pretty consistently, but the Raiders must fix the dumb ones. The one that stood out was Danico Autry jumping offsides even though the ball is right in front of him. Also, various late hits, including the one where Lee Smith was supposedly kidding. Those are just dumb penalties that can't happen. I understand the holdings, but offsides and late hits are ridiculous. Last but not least, the Raiders finally have a chance to recover, and more importantly, the corners have a chance to heal up. The Raiders are off with the bye after spending a week on the East Coast. Hopefully, this is what turns the season around just like last year. More importantly, the Chiefs and Broncos both lost today. The Raiders are surprisingly in second place by a half game, but 2 games back from the Chiefs for first place. They still have one more game against the Chiefs in Arrowhead, but must focus on winning the games ahead of them.